welcome to Native Wellness Institute's Wellness Wednesday. Woohoo! I love it, I love it, I love it. Today is so awesome. I'm at the Montana State University, and I'm just here's where I am. And I am in Sunny Day Real Birds office. So welcome to Wellness Wednesday. And all the students are eating fry bread and stew. Woohoo! So welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Tammy King made fry bread for us today, and God, it was such good stew. But I wanted to come on because I get a break from 1 to 2. And I'm here all week, so welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I wanted to share with you today. I'm doing what they call an elder in residence, and I'm in a place where I'm just trying to check the lighting because there's all these lights. And so welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Nistu Nidaniko Makoyo Sakoyi. Wolf's Trail or the Milky Way. That's my second Blackfoot name. And today I could feel the name. I'm so excited. I just want to share with you. I've been here since Saturday. And my day began Sunday with hiking the rims out of Billings. And the rims are like the cliffs. And the rims are, I'm just going to set you down because when I first came here, we had a gathering of Native Americans. Agona, they used to be 4 days, but they're 3 days now. And we learned this one story. So I wanted to start today is, it's the healing of all of the land here from Billings down to Crow Agency, down to Wyoming and all the way up. But I'll start with the story. So I wanted to stare this because when I came here, I remembered this is when Harold Belmont was alive, when Dr. Clayton Small, Cecilia Fire Thunder, Jean Harone, John Bird, Barbara Aragon. A lot of us were doing Gonas, and a gathering of Native Americans was in Billings. So what we learned from these rims, and now it's important when you're on the land because know what the land can teach you, because those rims, the story that we heard, and it was from an Absalaga, an older Crow man that was I think there was 300 of us in that Gona in a circle. And so the story we heard, and I wanted to start with that, was because this whole week that I'm with these 360 students, it's just so powerful, is for the Crow Nation, when they got bombarded with germ warfare, because for the tribes here, it was smallpox. All of the tribes here were given infected blankets with smallpox. And there's many stories. Each tribe, they had, it was an epidemic in places. For us, 1869, it took out 2/3 of our Blackfoot people. 2/3. So when that smallpox had come down, and this is where the rims come in, is Crows are beautiful nation, beautiful people. They have a lot of medicine people. They have a lot of they have good medicine, and their language is prevalent. Most still speak Crow. So at that time, there was so much death in the community with the smallpox that there was, and I remember it was 17, I might not be accurate on the number, there were 17 warriors that went through this pledge ceremony with Akpadadia. And again, it's my dialect on how they call Ishtapatapiyop. The equivalent in Crow is Akpadadia, and it means creator. Every tribe has their word for creator. Northern Cheyenne that are here, Mahio. We have some Assiniboine Sioux. It's Tunkashala. So these 17 warriors went through a ceremony because they just couldn't take it anymore that so many were dying from the smallpox. There was so much sorrow, there was wailing, massive wailing. And Crows have wailing, when someone dies, they all do a wailing around that grave site. So these 17 warriors, the story that we heard, and I just wanted to share with you today, because we had our ways of taking care of things, that's a real warrior. So these 17 warriors in this ceremony, they made a pledge to Akpadadia that if they sacrificed themselves, would Creator stop the smallpox epidemic. So they dressed in their horses had all, beaded horse masks. Their horses had beaded saddles. Even sometimes the horse's tail is adorned, and they themselves were in their finest, with their headdresses, with their beaded buckskin, with their lances, with their bows, everything that they had to signify that they were a warrior. And so the story that we heard at this gathering of Native Americans on those rims is that these 17 warriors made this pledge, and they prayed, and they did their warrior cry, and I don't want to scare anyone around here. Hey. And they rode off the rims, and they all perished. And from that moment on, the smallpox epidemic started subsiding. And, who knows, did people start to get immunity? Did people start to, it started subsiding, and the deaths got smaller and smaller. That's how significant these rims are for the Crow Nation. So when I drove down from Bab, because Bab to Billings is it's about a 7-hour drive. It's so funny because everyone says, well, you can get there in 6 hours, one P stop, Eddie's Corner. So of course, you can stop at Eddie's Corner and gas up and keep going. So when I was up there, I remembered that story, and so I was hiking around, and I bought some pastascan, some tobacco, and this tobacco, I just, because I hadn't been up there in a while, I just, reintroduced myself to the land, with who my ancestors are. When you talk to the land, tell them who your ancestors are, and speak in your language, even if it's one word, but I introduced myself, and I thanked whoever were those warriors that rode off, that they still showed us that our indigenous ways work. That if we have faith and we do our ceremonies, that there are still the warriors that step in front. And we see that with our armed forces. There's, they're deploying a lot of people right now to Iran and you'll see a lot of natives, female, male, LGBTQ two-spirit, will be deployed because they're warriors and they're willing to defend our country and to defend our honor. So, wow, that's pretty serious stuff. Like, I just wow. So that's how our week started. And then, I'm getting to be, this is so cool because I only got 5 more days to be in my 60s. And on the 20th, I'll be turning 70 years old. So, woohoo! I made it this far. Woohoo! because the average life expectancy of a Blackfeet is 54 years old. And that is because of historical trauma and lifestyle, etc. So I just want to say I I'm so I feel really very honored, and I it brings me to tears. I'm so grateful that I have been privileged to live this long, 70 years. And so I wanted to come to you today, so welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Our team is out there. I think our executive director is at Fort Belknap right now with her family. Everyone are preparing for ceremonies and buffalo hunts. MSU here just had their big powwow, and so we had a lot of people from out of town, out of state, out of country dancing here. And so you could tell with the students, because Monday, we started Monday and we all eat together, and there was a couple bushy Indians kind of walked in, looking bushy. And I said, "You look like you danced at the powwow weekend." They go, "We did." So they had that powwow hangover, but they were looking good, and they had that excitement. They were talking about, ooh, that was so good when they had the rabbit dance, special, and they had the owl dance special. All these, courtship kind of dances, and then they were talking about the grass dancers, and some of the students were some of the native students that come here. They were saying, "Ooh, those fancy dancers," because it's interesting because the reses are here, and we know the powwows, but there's always students who are part Indian or trying to discover the Indianness in them, and no one judges. That's what I like about being the elder in residence here, is they're just all young people. A lot of them are in their early 20s, just out of high school coming here, or they're coming to finish their 4-year degree. Ricky, who is from Fort Peck, I call him my Indian Uber. He walks me around to everything. Escort. It's like protocol. They take care of me, make sure I have water. They're all in there eating. I had to decide to take my last bite of fry bread. And the soup was so good, but it was really hot. And I said, "I'll be right back." Native Wellness Institute, I got to do our little podcast, and so I'm in here. So that's how it began. But I wanted to. So much has happened since Monday. We're right now. We just learned about different protocols for talking circle, because the staff here every Wednesday, and you're welcome to come join every Wednesday. They provide a meal and a talking circle. So that's what I'll return. We'll return to the talking circle. And they've been doing it for a year and a half. So all of the students, and right now they're heading into finals. Their papers are due. They got to get all their hours in for all their volunteer and their paid positions. Right before it's the end of the year. That's the kind of vibrancy that's here at MSU. So I'm really, I'm honored and privileged that, and I'm the elder in residence. So it's kind of cool. They even got me like a little apartment in the dorms, and it was just so thoughtful. I mean, I have my own living room, my own bedroom. They stocked it with all kinds of coffee, tea. They just did it so many thoughtful things. Making sure that the air conditioner worked. They made like a cozy little place that I have just slept 8 or 9 hours every night, because we've been going. We've been going all day. Yesterday, I did visits to Crow Agency and visit a lot of Crow relatives. And then today, we're in our talking circle, and then we're going to meet with staff. And anyone can come see me and ask. It's like ask an elder any question. It's kind of cool. I might not know the answer, eh? But I'll do my best to tell the truth. I'll just, because one of the students just asked me right now, and she's got like tears in her eyes. She goes, "Could I just ask you one thing?" And I go, "Yeah, sure, sure." I don't know if I know the answer. She says, "How do you say turtle in Blackfoot?" And I said, "Spoopy." I said, "I have 65 first cousins, and one of my first cousins was Spoopy Merlin Roundine. But we always just called him Spoopy." And she said, "That's what they used to call me because I used to do everything slow." They called her Turtle. And so those are the kind of questions I get. And then I just, I mean, and some are asking questions like, what if you're four tribes? Do you have to smudge four different ways? Or, it's like, it's so fantastic that they're all good questions. And I'm, Nistu Sixkatapi, Blackfoot, Confederacy, Nistu Amskapi, Pikani. So I know a bit about those, but I also was privileged, growing up with some of my family dancing at Wombly, South Dakota, and Lakota, and Dakota, and Nakota. So I know some protocols of Lakota ways, Lakota words. And then, it's interesting because the students here, they just come and it's like we've been matched. I'll know some things about their tribes. And so we share it. And one of the things, so the first thing, our first talking circle had all of the higher ups, the non-natives that are, head of the college, head of faculty, head of curriculum, and it was so beautiful because they came and, often their education is death by PowerPoint. I mean, they're learning indigenous knowledge, but that was, they said, "Well, what do you want?" I said, no, get rid of these tables, put us all in a circle. We're going to have a smudge, and then we're going to talk about medicine, and we're going to do storytelling of healing. And in that encounter, there was such good questions, but there was such emotion. A lot of the group began to, say they're experiencing unresolved grief, that they've lost someone. Others had just anxiety about, what's happening in the world and the connections of communication. And so that talking circle was just so beautiful. I want to say, God, if Leanne Bruised is watching, we had a lot of alumni come, a lot of elders. There was a Wetzel that came. And these are all just like last names in this area because they wanted to come and be in it like a safe environment, and then we smudged and it was so beautiful. It was just a beautiful thing for us all to smudge together and to pray together. And, but there was, we started with why everyone needed to have the rite of passage of getting their native name. And that took up a lot of the discussion, even in this talking circle before they served us, because we had to wait for the stew a little bit. People were asking about rites of passage. And so, and one of the things, the topic of discussion at MSU right now is, how did you get your name? What does your name mean? Are you saying it in the language? One of the young men, he was given the name and he only knew it in English, like that bear that stands up. And you could tell that's a good name for him, but he wanted to know. So some are asking, well, how do you say? And and I'm not, by no means, I don't speak fluent Crow or Northern Cheyenne fluently, or Salish Kootenai or Cree. So we're learning from each other. And that's what's happening in these circles. That's the excitement, is that whoever's in the circle, somebody knows the answer. Someone knows how to say it. Someone knows what are the protocols and what are the celebrations. Like right now, Just another story. There was a young man who he helped because they had all these volunteers. They had hundreds of volunteers with the powwow, and he was so impressed with the grass dance. And then there was two other, they were impressed with they want to learn how, they go, how do you start? So then there was a discussion, what is protocol? Why do we need grass dancers? And they were holy people, and they were brought, and there was a ceremony to them and how they dance, giving you a blessing and stomping down the grass, with their feet. That it's like the grass flowing in the wind is how a good grass dancer has that kind of grass flowing in the wind movements. And so our discussion, I said, and then they have to stomp down all the grass. They're so important to any dance, any powwow, because they stomp down the grass first, and then all the other dancers can come, and it's pretty good to dance on that, the sukum, the earth. And so I could see in their eyes, because they wanted to ask questions, and Ricky he's been telling me stories that he wants to grass dance, so he's getting his outfit together. And so now we're connecting those that want to dance. They got inspired. How do they get their outfit together? And that's beautiful. That's creating, it's an example of creating a safe space for cultural knowledge, where there's no stupid questions and nothing's wrong or a mistake, and they began. And so I guess I'm feeling their excitement. So welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Welcome to, we always do positive, productive, and proactive storytelling for an hour every Wednesday, and anything that falls under the mission of Native Wellness Institute is to keep our teachings of our ancestors alive. So anything that falls under that umbrella, we come on here and we talk about. So today you're getting me at a point where I would call it just all jazzed and fired up. All jazzed and fired up because of the young people here are like sponges, and they're so intelligent. I mean, they're well read. I could just see the brilliancy and the energy of their minds, just soaking up all this information. So it's just, so welcome to Wellness Wednesday. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about today, and it was just so sparked, in these. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is, how do you dress indigenous? People how do you look indigenous, or how do you adorn indigenous? And because like the group, and I'm going to go back in and join them. I was telling them that for me it was a process. It was a process. When I first started going out and sharing teachings of Pastaskan, tobacco, and sharing indigenous, it's a term. 50 years ago we didn't say indigenous knowledge, but how do you, it's an inside job, but there's also, a lot we're saying, wow, you got elk ivory necklace, and this is a shouting, my niece, a shouting. She makes these earrings, with 14 karat gold plate. We were talking about, well, how, but I think it's a gentle mannerism in which you come in indigenous. And I was just, like, what do you do with your hair? How is your hair? But, I was just saying, like, some of the students here, they got different color hair, right? And some of the students ain't got no hair. It's bald. And, and you can't tell if they're going through chemo or they just decided to shave their head. Anyway, but what do you do with your hair? What kind of belts do you wear? What kinds of fabric do you choose? This fabric again, it's Atstanikiwa. Lori chose this. She said to get vibrant fabric with polka dots, and that's sometimes you see a lot of dancers, they'll have polka dots, or they'll have elk ivories. Okay, so that's one way. And so Sunny was saying, "Wow, that color that you have on." I said, "Yeah, this was the dress that I was dancing in on Reservation Dogs, season 2, episode 5. This was the dress that Tazba chose for me to whirl and to come in and to dance with the 4 aunties." And so I it kind of, and it's a really high quality cotton. And I only dry clean it. So, God, this dress has lasted a long time. So, but how do you adorn yourself? And how do you try? So think about this. It's best to dress like your ancestors, whoever your ancestors were. I remember the first time that I went to New Zealand, and Deidre Nahula and Sid Jackson had brought me and Kakuni Blasdale from Hawaii. And the elders, I kept asking, what is the protocol? What is the protocol? I don't want to come as an American. I want to come from the Blackfeet Nation. And then they finally said, well, just come dressed as your ancestors, not your oppressors. Wow, think about that. Dress like your ancestors, not your oppressors. So what is that? Is that indigenous? And so I wore my elk ivory dress, all my beadwork, my hair was braided. I brought my eagle fan, and I brought all the feathers. And when that was the first time I traveled abroad like that with all of the feathers. And in Ganaxtimata, Brave Dog, Crazy Dog, I was transferred into that in 2007. They always said, just smudge your stuff and make it invisible. So I just smudged all my eagle feathers and made them invisible, and they were in my suitcase. And I never got stopped for nothing. And I'm just saying that's something that you have to believe, and you have to ask the spirits to help you. And spumokit, because the spirits will help you, because I was not smuggling anything. I wasn't smuggling anything like that, doing anything that would hurt anyone. I was sharing indigenous knowledge, and I was bringing my eagle fan at that time. And that was the intention. So when you smudge it, and they say to make it invisible, it didn't, it was not, because I've heard of other indigenous people get their stuff taken away. Because when you're in other countries, they have different laws, and they can take your stuff away. Right? There's it's illegal for some people to have eagle feathers. There's a permit in the United States, you carry papers. There's other in Canada. It's kind of like I just go, woohoo! Think about it, our people, a grand entry. That grand entry is one of the most powerful times that exists. It's vibrant, but it's the most eagle feathers in one room dancing in. The most eagle feathers. And that's why we love to go to powwows. That's why grand entry is so important. That's why the protocol of the order, having the arena director, having your veterans, having your royalty, having, that all those eagle feathers in one place. That is just so beautiful. That's why and the beat of the drum, that rhythm, that self-regulating, when you hear the beat of the drum, it heals you inside, because that was the sound of your mother's heart when you were inside of your mother. So when you hear that drum and that grand entry with all those eagle feathers and all the other medicine, plus there's, you dance for those who cannot dance. And I understand that now because I see a lot of my peers that they can't dance 30 songs, or they have to sit down and catch their breath. And if or something else, something might be on their body where their hip or something, but you dance and that you lift up the spirit, because when you're dancing for those, you dance hard. And that's something you learn, in Ocon or Sundance. You learn to fast and dance hard. I danced 10 years with Buster Yellow Kidney with that bundle, and it taught me so much about the preciousness of water, first of all, the preciousness of food, and that it's a ceremony to take a mouthful of, like my brother yesterday down, Marcus Red Thunder Sr. gave me some pemmican, a big hunk of pemmican. So it was about an hour drive back. I ate it. I would just put the pemmican in my mouth and pray for my brother, pray for what we had all talked to. We talked for 4 hours. We visited, and his wife and his son and his nephew, we visited. So, just what it teaches you to dance, whether you're sun dancing, whether you're fasting, or you're just by yourself. And if you're by yourself, you can also dance. We all learned that during the pandemic and during when COVID was here. I remember the day I was still doing a lot of stuff on Zoom, and I just felt like dancing, and so I started traditional dancing. So next I started traditional dancing by this one spot, and then I would dance every day, and I would just pretend I was at the powwow, and my spirit would be uplifted. I would be uplifted. So no matter what you're doing, Colleen, if you're out there herding the sheep, or you're out in the ranch, or you're out chopping wood, or you're hunting, just dance. That one of the things to uplift you, get your rhythm. And I was talking with Marcus yesterday, and he read me a poem because my other niece, Natani, holds the enemy. She has a group in Billings, and I hope I get to meet with them next. They're like Poetry in Action. They had this advocacy group. So I have a poem of hers, and I think I need to first find the spectacles. But we were talking about what dance does for you, what dance brings to you. And Melissa, the mom, she said, well, we have a copy. She has a lot. She's been published a couple of poems, and so they went and got the poem. And I'm just gonna take a moment. What revives us? What restores us? What brings us together? And so I asked the mother to read this poem, and I'm just going to pull it out here because I wanted to share. I said, can you find out from her if it's okay if I read it on Wellness Wednesday? And Marcus said, I'm sure we'll check. So she said it was okay to read her poem. Okay, so this is Natani Holds the Enemies. I'm going to begin now. Ithati powwow. This arbor is filled with the sweat and tears of every warrior that has fallen for my livelihood. Therefore, this arbor is my stage of purpose and sincerity. So my grandfather would tell me to really dance until I was hurting, not for myself, but for someone in the crowd watching that needed it. My grandfather would tell me to dance because people were hurting, are sad, are angry, are happy, are grieving. I was told to dance as hard as I could, so I did. I gazed upon my grandmother, who is not of my own flesh and blood, but is still yet my family, for the arena joins us together. I was told to dance even if I was shaking, so I did. So her heart may enter the arbor, dance among us, even if she cannot. After I dance the songs of love and purity, I saw my grandfather within the mountain that drags across the top of the arbor. I heard his voice within the beats of the midnight drum. I felt his arms embrace within the star quilt wrapped around my shoulders. Although it had been years since he had walked our Mother Earth, I knew if I danced as hard as I could, I would see my grandfather again. My grandfather told me to dance is to pray. To pray is to love. So when I danced the best I could, the hardest I could, in Wind River, I knew he would be watching because I needed him too. Isn't that powerful? And I'm so glad that, she gave permission for me to read that poem today. And that's an example. I'm at MSU. I'm with all these students. Some are, I got a large group that's, studying psychology. So we had the Maslow talk, and we had indigenous, psychology dialogue. But think about that dancing. I don't want to, this poem, and I could feel the tears because yesterday when Melissa was reading it, I got tears again. But I remembered, when she was reading it, I remembered the arbor, when they talked about the arbor. And I remember, like on that third day of Sundancing, because they say, you have to suffer when you go on the Sundance because you're suffering for the people. It's not easy. But on that third day, when it's so challenging, and that part of her poem when she says, dance when it hurts, dance when, when it's inside of you. That's why we dance. That's why indigenous people, we always danced. We always sang. We always used our language. But that dancing, and I was just, like I can feel the rhythm, and I'm getting excited about going to Cayo and driving over there on Friday because I'm going to dance with my mom. My mom, she's driving over. She went and got her tires rotated. She went and got her oil changed, and she's driving over tomorrow. She's going to check into. We're staying at the Edgewater there, with the balcony, So we're right near the field house, but last night when I was talking with my mother, and I'm just sharing something with you, she said, she was giggling towards the end. She goes, yeah, my oldest baby's turning 70. I'm her oldest baby, and my mom, she was 17 when she had me, but there's something symbolic because she's getting all her energy. Cause when you're 87, turning 88, she said, we're going to dance together like we have for the last 31 years. We always go to Cayo and we dance together. My sister dances with us. Charlene Prairie Chicken comes and dances with us. Other stand-ups come and dance with us. So I'm inviting you. Okay, Saturday night at Field House, I'm celebrating my birthday. And all I want for my birthday is for people to come and dance with me on that night and hug and visit. I just want to hug, visit, and dance. And I think that's probably why I'm getting so... And so when I heard this poem yesterday, I said, can I share that on Wellness Wednesday? And they said yes. So I hope that those of you who know poetry, love poetry, or want to explore poetry, that this does something for you. So I was just, when I was coming here, So much has happened in the past couple of days because I haven't been in academics, and I really respect it because there's good structure here. It's turning out brilliant minds, and it's necessary, that structure of papers due on time. But when I was down at one of the Crow Agency elementary schools yesterday, it has a reputation. And so, talking about structure of academics, the reputation is that they're really good at maintaining and keeping the Crow language. And I could see that when I went to go get my granddaughter for her half-hour lunch break, and we went to the food truck and got menudo and tortillas. It was just so awesome. Anyway, but I saw the structure that was necessary for the third grade boys. I saw the structure that was necessary for the third grade girls, and the adults that surround that student. I see it here. They're older, they're more mature, but I see that we need, so that structure is the same as Indigenous protocol. That structure is what we have to bring back to be Indigenous. And it's that protocol of respect, that protocol of rites of passage, that protocol of courtship, that protocol of, even, to be transferred a stand-up headdress, to be transferred, an aniscum. My aniscum is here underneath my shirt. I'm not going to pull it out. To be transferred any kind of knowledge, a transfer to go, get bear root or omagussus or any kind of medicine. There has to be that Indigenous spirit to it. And so when I was down at the Crow Agency, it was so beautiful because, the first thing I drive up, and they're young. I want to say they look like fifth graders, maybe sixth graders, and they were learning how to put Crow style the teepee poles up for a lodge. And this was, because this is what they were learning today, was how to put up a teepee. And everywhere I went, I went down to the trading post, there was a lot of lodges up. And I was just saying, that's why it's teepee capital of the world. Even the third graders learn how to put up a teepee. It is just so cool. But there was discipline and structure because they were learning, because the teacher was saying it in Crow, not English, in Crow, and then showing them. And that's to learn the language. It's not just about hearing it, it's doing it and hearing it, doing it and hearing it. It's peeling the teepee poles. It's singing the songs, doing it and hearing it. That's how you keep the language. Right, Sandra? Many feathers? And so yesterday I saw such love, and my niece, the best part, she goes, yeah, and they're not late. She goes, okay, I have to finish up here 6 minutes. And then she came out, and then she had to get back, and she goes, yeah, I have the third grade boys, and they're doing math. And she said, but I know where each of them are and how they need to get better at math, so I have to keep. And I go, oh my God, Jamie, you keep all those third grade. She goes, no, because I love them, they love me, and I have to be hard on them. And she calls it hard. I said, are you badass? She goes, no, because they need to learn math in order to, to progress. And so she said, and sometimes I come around and, and I'll look at them and I'll tell them, I'm going to give you 15 more minutes. You can figure it out. She said, it's better to do that than to show them how to do it. And then she goes, and I come back in 15 minutes. Boom, they got it done. I go, you're a facilitator. You're a teacher. She goes, yeah, they're all doing really good in math, those third grade boys, because some of them came and no one taught them math. Anyway, and I go, well, what about the third grade girls? And she goes, oh, that's another story. So I was seeing, yesterday I said, it's about to be whatever you're showing me. The things that you're showing me right now, I am so grateful for. I'm seeing all of our young people, third, fourth, fifth graders, learning the culture, learning the language, learning math, learning how to put up a teepee, how to put up a lodge. And then I'm here, and I'm going to start winding down because I got to go back and finish. I know the talking circle's still going. And they were just at the point where they had a lot of questions. And I said, well, you got me all afternoon, and I may not know the answers, but I know some. And so I'm going to get back in there and visit with them. And I'm here in Billings. If anyone's who's watching, come by. I'm at MSU, and we're here. It's open to the public. We're having lunch on Friday, and then I'm going to get in War Pony. I'm going to go towards Missoula, Kiowa. But I just wanted to come to you. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. And as usual, Native Wellness Institute, we're in the springtime right now. We have so many trainings going on. We have so many requests. We're trying to answer them all. So be patient with us. We're also at Barbie's Village. Next month we're getting geared up for our lifestyle skills training of trainer. We have several events. I know I'll be traveling you're welcome to come to Reno Sparks Colony in Reno, Nevada next week. I think it's 27th, 28th, and 29th. Dwight, Francisco and I are doing a gathering of Native Americans. It's a training of trainer, and I think Wanda Bratchler is going to come, our new board member. And, Arlen Melendez he had one of the first Gonas in the early 90s, and they're still doing Gonas. We're still doing the healing. That'll be going on. And we're all been planning for the Healing Together conference that will be in Milwaukee in August. That'll be coming up. Where I was just listening to I also listen to Mike Duncan, Native Dads Network. They have several efforts that are going on. And Mike, congratulations. He was out there, and that's the fun of social media. Put the positive, productive, and proactive things. Mike and Robin, they got married, and they finally did their honeymoon in Hawaii. So they put it all on, not everything. They didn't put everything on. But what they were doing in Hawaii, and it was to solidify that vow. And I guess, as I'm winding down, one of the topics at our dinner with the students is we had the question. I just asked them, are you guys going to get married? And all the students, there was just one student who is Two-Spirit and had a partner. They've been married 4 years, but all the other students had not. So we had a discussion. To be a good person, do you need to get married? And so it went deep. It was like, because a lot of the students said, I have to, a lot of things I need to do for my own self-development, for my own growth, my own maturity, before I would even consider making a vow, a very important vow like getting married. And it was just, I loved it. And it was music to my ears. And then we started talking about courtship, is that you got to go slow. It isn't get married quick. It isn't that way. It's to get to know each other and make a vow to grow with each other, to make sure that there's good connection, good communication, that you respect each other's growth and roles, and it was intense. But that's kind of what I've been involved in. And I'm just bubbling because I'm being asked some really unusual questions, and so I want to get back in there And I have a full day today. They have a big meal at 6 tonight, and then I'm seeing individuals. And I brought a lot of medicines with me, and we were talking about sorrow medicine, the fungus of white diamond willow. And because one of the older students was saying that she's experiencing a lot of sorrow. That has what's kept her back in not finishing her degree. So we're going to talk about sorrow medicine. Well, Native Wellness Institute, anything that it's about the keeping the teachings of our ancestors alive. And Native Wellness Institute, we're really working on representing all 4 generations, the youth. And we say to 20 years old, 20 to 40 years old, 40 to 60 years old, and then up, because some of our team, we get the advice of God. Avis Archambault is, 88. John Spence is 84. Cecilia Firethunder will be turning 80 in October. Dr. Clayton Small, saying Clayton never tells his age, but he's older than me. 570. Clayton, are you 75? No. I'll start teasing him. Anyway, you still got 25 more years to live. What else you gonna do, Clayton? We always tease. And so the teasing, if someone teases you, they love you. They're toughening you up. Don't get butthurt because they tease you. Just let them and tease them back. I was, when I first came, I was teasing hard, and I go, "You're supposed to tease me back." And they go, "Oh, we're not." I said, "You won't hurt me. No, tease me back. Tease me back. Tease badass Cindy back." So now the others, now we're getting down. We're getting deep because we are teasing hard. It is just so beautiful. It's because we're loving each other and things are good. And so I'm going to get back in there to the talking circle. I really appreciate you. I ask for your prayers. War Pony and I, we're driving hard. We're moving hard. But I really ask for your prayers these couple of days. And the prayers is so that I'm grounded and that I'm at a harmony space, that I can be this elder residence with all of these young people. And because I'm loving it. I just want to do a good job, so I need your prayers. So that's about it for this week. Wellness Wednesday. I appreciate all of you, and I hope there's something I said. I've been telling these guys, I said, when I'm dead, you better remember something I said. I ain't dead yet, but anyway, we have a good time. But I just want to say, Kitakito Matsuno. We'll see you later.